Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ray Bassett, and welcome to the Firm U, a private personal training studio here in Houston. Today's subject is a little personal because it involves a condition that I have, and I've been living with for about 10 years. It's called congestive heart failure. Now, I was diagnosed back in 2014 with this condition. And it was found because I was getting a surgery done. I had both my hips replaced, first the right side, and in doing so, I had an appointment to get a pre-operational clearance or pre-op. And in doing so, I had a blood test, heart, blood pressure, things like that. But they also did an EKG to measure my heart to see how strong my heart was and what kind of condition it was in. Well, it came back abnormal, and I'm like, what? Abnormal? I was 54 years old at the time. This is back in 2014, and I'm like in the best condition pretty much of my life. And I was just blown away that I had a problem with my heart. I said to my doctor, I said, I have a hip condition, not a heart condition. He says, not according to our numbers here. We're going to set you up with a cardiologist tomorrow. Now, I was getting my hips replaced 2 days from that day. And so they got me right in, saw the cardiologist, and they gave me a echocardiogram, and then I was going to do a stress test. Well, you lay down and they put a lubricant on your chest and they're listening. I can hear the machine going like this. And about maybe 10 minutes into it, the technician or the nurse gets up and says, I'll be right back, and walks out the door. And I'm like, this could be really good or it can be really bad. So she comes back in about 3 or 4 minutes later and says, the cardiologist would like to see you. And I'm like, okay. I'm thinking I'm supposed to get on that treadmill and do a stress test. But I put my shirt back on, I get up and sit in front of the cardiologist. So the cardiologist says to me, he says, how you feeling right now? I said, great. And he asked me a series of about 12 questions, which I was asked about 4 or 5 times later that day by different other doctors or technicians or nurses. And he asked, do you have cardiovascular disease in your family? And I said, well, yeah, my grandfather died of a heart attack, my father, my uncle, and so he says to me, do you have any shortness of breath? I said, no. Do you have, went through all of the heart disease questions, and I know where he's going with this. And he says to me, your ejection fraction, which is how much your left ventricle squeezes out to the rest of your body to supply nutrients and oxygen to your organs and other vital parts of your body for circulation. He says your ejection fraction is 20 to 25%. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? I must have missed the heart course in school. And he says, well, the normal is about 65 to 70%. He says anything under 40% ejection fraction is considered borderline congestive heart failure. And then he says anything under 30% ejection fraction is congestive heart failure. And that's right here, and you're right here at 20 to 25%. And I said, well, what does that mean? And he says, well, are you fatigued? And I said, no, I was up this morning doing repetitions of squats with 315 pounds before I came to this appointment. I wanted to get my leg exercises in before I had my hips replaced. And I said, that treadmill that I was supposed to get on, I said, that's a piece of cake. I mean, I could have done that pass that test in flying colors. And he says to me, he says, well, according to the echocardiogram, you would have, killed over and had a coronary heart, you would have had a heart attack. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, I just can't believe it. Okay, and then you hear stories about, athletes dying on the field. You hear them, whatever age you are, it doesn't matter. You can have that sudden cardiac arrest. And I'm like, okay, I'm listening now. I'm getting a little serious. So he says, what we're going to do is give you a calcium score. So they put you in this MRI looking tube, for lack of better words. And I get in that, which I'm very claustrophobic, but I got through it. And I come back out of that calcium score. And it's like I said, an MRI. And I had zero plaque. And I asked the technician or the nurse, I said, what is this? What's the plaque thing? He says, well, where there's plaque, there's inflammation or there are clots. Okay. Inflammation is the beginning of any disease or condition that you can have. So when you have inflammation, it's not a good thing. And by the way, I do blood tests for inflammation, and I do blood tests on myself every 3 to 6 months. So my CRP, which is the panel for inflammation, is always well below 1, and 3 and above is not good in the ranking scores. So I think a 0.38 was my inflammation score or CRP score. And so I know as far as my blood goes, that part's good. So and I have a clean diet. I've had a clean diet since, years, decades. So, I compete on the national level. And I was asking them not to treat me like a 50-year-old guy back then. And they said, well, your heart's 54 years old, you're all your organs. And I'm like, okay. But don't look at me. I take care of myself. Don't look at me as the average American out there, eating the standard American diet, because that's not me. So anyway, we get over, there's no clots. Okay. So that checked off. So they scheduled me the next day to get an angiogram. Now back then they go up through your leg, up through your blood vessels, and through all 4 chambers of your heart with a scope. And also on that scope, they have a stent where if there is blockage anywhere in your heart, they'll put a stent in there. And the medication they give you is kind of one of those, like you're kind of sleeping, but you're not, you're wide awake. So I could watch the screen while the cardiologist is bringing up a scope looking around, and I could see my heart beating, and it looked like a thunderstorm. It was huge. And the cardiologist says to me, he says, you got a heart of a 30-year-old. And I said, I kind of figured, I was crossing my fingers in a way, but yeah, I kind of figured I did. And so he gave me the clearance, the cardiologist gave me the clearance to go through my operation. All right. And it's mostly for the anesthesiologist, so they'll know what kind of medication or how much of a medication to apply to keep me under while I'm having my hip replaced. Well, 2 weeks later, that went great. 2 weeks later, I had the other hip replaced. That went great, okay? But I still have this thing called congestive heart failure. I have no symptoms whatsoever. No shortness of breath, no edema, which is swelling of your joints, usually your ankles away from your heart, the furthest away from your heart. And I'm fine. And so I go back to the cardiologist again. He wanted to follow up, okay? And I went in there, and the cardiologist is talking about, you may want to consider a heart transplant. I'm like, what? A heart transplant? I'm 54 years old. I've won national in the top 5 in the national contest in bodybuilding. I lift weights just about every day. I'm in, my body fat's under 12% all year round. And for contests, I'm about 5 or 6%. And I'm like, serious? And he goes, you might want to consider it because you get on the list now. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. So the cardiologist suggested that I wear a defibrillation vest. And you wear this vest, and it has a big battery pack on it. And if your heart starts beating so fast because it's not pumping enough oxygen to you, it'll shock you, just like a defibrillator you see in a gym. And I'm like, how hard is that thing, when it shocks you? And he says, oh, it's kind of like, touching a pipe with static electricity, you get a little bit of a zap. And I'm like, I've watched too many medical programs on TV, and I've seen them jump off the gurney, so I'm like, yeah, okay. So, and it, by the way, it was like $3,000 a month to rent this vest. Okay, so I said, I'm not going to, I said, I can't, I'm not going to do this. He says, well, insurance will cover it. It'll only, they'll do, your out of pocket will be $600 a month. And I said, okay, you know what? I still don't believe, I'm not going to wear this thing. I doubt it. So he says, well, you got a 3 in 10 chance of dying in your sleep. And I'm like, well, I had a 3 in chance of dying in my sleep last night too. So I'm like, I just kind of blew it off, and I had to sign a waiver saying that I denied the procedure or wearing the vest. So later on that night, I'm laying in bed, and going through my mind was 3 in 10 chance, 3 in 10 chance, cardiac sudden death. You could die of a heart attack, okay? And I'm home alone. Nobody's going to find me for probably a day or two anyway. And so the next day I call up the cardiologist's office, and I said, I'll give that vest a chance. Okay, so I go in and I get fitted for it. Nurse fits me for it, shows me how to use it. Okay, so I go to the gym the next day, and I've got this vest on. I look like, I have a weight vest it's 20 pounds, so I usually put on or sometimes we'll put on my clients to do exercises with. So we're adding another 20 pounds. But this thing was light, it was okay, but it's a little, bulky and uncomfortable. It bugged the heck out of me, and I had to explain to everybody why I'm wearing this thing. And so after a while, I started putting it over in a corner, and I would instruct people and say, if anything goes wrong with me, go ahead. Because now I'm getting a little paranoid, but I feel great. So anyway, so I got to the point where I was only wearing it when I was driving, because I certainly didn't want to have a heart attack when I'm driving, because I didn't want to hurt anybody or myself. And the best part is, the cardiologist told me, I said, what happens if I do have a heart attack? What happens is the left atrium is enlarged. Okay, so not enough blood can get into the left ventricle to be pushed out. That's my issue. Now there's a systolic and there's a diastolic, and there's different types of cardiovascular disease or heart disease. Specifically congestive heart failure. And also it'll back up into your lungs. The blood will back up into your lungs, causing congestion. And that's why they get the term congestive heart failure. So anyway, getting back to the vest, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not wearing it in the shower. And with my luck, if I was going to have a heart attack, it'd be in there. Okay, so I decided to pack it all up, and I sent it back to the manufacturer. And they called me immediately when they received it, and they said, did your doctor tell you to send it back? I said, no, I just received one of your bills, and I almost had a heart attack then, so I sent it back. Of course, I'm just kidding. But so I sent it back. I said, no, I can't wear it. So again, I'll go back to the cardiologist, and he says, okay, well, we'll just see how it goes. They gave me a beta blocker, and that was pretty much it, because I didn't have any symptoms. And I said, you're going to slow my heart down? That's what a beta blocker does. You're going to slow my heart down? I mean, my pulse rate, the only thing that was any kind of indication that or symptom that I had was my heart rate was a little bit faster than 70 beats per minute. It was closer to 79, 80, which is still in the normal, but normal high group. So fast forward 10 years later, now I'm 64. And 2 months ago, I go back to the cardiologist. They do the echocardiogram, which is the measurement of my ejection fraction, is basically what they're looking for. And so I'm listening to whoosh, 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 okay, all that noise, which is your heart pumping. And the technician, I said to the technician, I'm going to warn you. I said, it's going to be really low. I said, but I'm fully functional, obviously. Okay. And I said, you don't have to get up and be quiet and tiptoe out the door. I know what's going on. So anyway, I did the echocardiogram. A few days later, or a week later, I see the cardiologist, sit down with him, and he says, wow, he says, I don't see much improvement. I said, well, I haven't had any symptoms for 10 years. Now, I also reminded the cardiologist that if I would have gotten a heart transplant like they recommended 10 years ago, would I be in a better place right now? I don't think so, okay? But by taking care of myself, by taking the right vitamins and supplements, and I'll go through that. That's why I have all these supplements out here. For anybody suffering from any kind of heart disease, that my methodology to be able to be active and functional with heart disease is going to help anybody. Here's one question that really, really bothered me. My cardiologist did not ask me, what am I doing to be able to sustain this condition without any symptoms? Am I that lucky guy, 1 in a million? I asked him, I said, has anybody had an ejection fraction as low as me and be as functional? He said, no. He says, you know those people that are out in the waiting room in their wheelchair with the oxygen tank behind them and a mask over their face blowing in oxygen? He said to me that their ejection fraction is better than yours. And I said, what am I, a medical miracle, or what would you call it? And he says, yes, this is not, you should be fatigued. You should actually be bedridden. You shouldn't have any energy. I said, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. My first client is 5 o'clock in the morning, and I work all the way to noon, take a couple hours off, and then I start my clients in the afternoon and evening. So I'm working sometimes up to 14 hours a day, and I'm not skipping a beat. Do I look like I'm real tired to you? Okay, and also, in the meantime, to put things even worse, is I developed asthma. Okay, and I went to a pulmonologist, and it was from a mold thing, exposure to mold for a long period of time, and that's how I developed asthma. So now, and that's a respiratory issue. Okay, so I have asthma, congestive heart failure, and I'm still fully functional. What am I doing? Why wouldn't somebody ask me, what is that guy doing? That would be my first thing. And I said to the cardiologist, I said, why don't you write a paper on this? If you're calling me a medical marvel, and how I can live with congestive heart failure at my level, I still lift weights every day. I have no problem. I don't have shortness of breath. I don't have edema. All of the conditions that they ran through, other than my family history, I have no problems. Okay, so cardiologist again came up with, well, we should put you on a heart transplant list. And I said, you know what? I've had this heart broken a couple times, but I'm not going to have it replaced. I can't do that. And he says, well, we'll medicate you. And I said, why would you medicate me when I don't have any symptoms? You don't give a medication to somebody without any symptoms. All right, so we went around with that. And then he says to me, what we can do is put a implant in your chest, and it has wires that go down into the blood vessels in your heart, and it's a implantable defibrillator, and it's about the size of a what do you call it, floss case. I guess that's the best way to look at it, or a fob for your car type of thing. And I looked at it. He showed me the defibrillator and how it's implanted. And I watched a lot of videos on it and did my research. And he made me an appointment with a cardiologist, a neurocardiologist that does the implants. And I saw it and I'm like, I don't know if I want to have this thing kind of sticking out of my chest right here. And, you know, it's not too bad, but I just couldn't see. I watched one video where the defibrillator went off and the guy said it felt like he got kicked with a mule. All right. Brought him back to life. But, you know, he just passed out and came back to life. And I'm like, I don't know. I think I'll take my chances in the gym, working out, keeping my lifestyle the same way, because evidently that's working. I have no problems, nothing whatsoever. Now, I could get done with this video and collapse on the floor and that's it, okay? But then again, you know, anybody could go at any minute anyway. And that's the way I live my life. I don't wake up in the morning and say, well, phew, God, I made it through that night. You know, so I look at a positive attitude, and it's really hasn't slowed me down. It's in the back of my mind. Of course it would be. But let me show you what I do. And I try to explain this to the doctor, which for some reason, I listened a little bit, but I don't think his attention was, I think his attention was more on, I hate to say this, but I went online. You know how much a heart transplant cost? It's like 1.5 million, okay? And the defibrillator is about 35,000. That's where they bill your insurance. And I just felt like I was being sold, you know, hey, step right up. We'll get you a new heart. We'll get you a defibrillator. We'll get you this medication. And I'm like, you know what my medication is? It's right behind me or right side of me. It's the gym. It's lifting weights. It's eating cleanly or with non-genetic organisms, with grass-fed real beef, farm food, okay, which we have here packed up. And I subscribe to my own food service. Okay. The other hidden supplement that I have is called essential fatty acids. Okay, the essential fatty acids. This is unadulterated plant-based omega-6 and omega-3. Now this, I call it Extend Life. And the reason why I call it Extend Life, because I feel it's extended mine. And I'll tell you why. These capsules in here are like little oxygen magnets. It creates oxygen in the cell membrane. Okay, I don't want to get too technical, but we have 100 trillion cells in our body. And half of it is fat, half of it's protein, and there's a minuscule of carbohydrates or sugar. Very, very little. It's almost unmeasurable. Of that, 25% to 33% is omega-6. That's what's missing from our food today, omega-3 and omega-6, which this stuff supplements. One of the reasons that cancer is so prevalent and other diseases is because we're not getting enough oxygen to the cell membrane. This right here, this Extend Life, does that, okay? So it provides unadulterated, and I'll say it again, plant-based omega-6 and omega-3, okay? Ever ask your cardiologist or doctor what causes a heart attack? Well, is it having high cholesterol? If it's inflamed, remember that CRP panel that I was talking about? That's why they couldn't find any plaque on me, because I have a clean diet and I exercise. When I say exercise, I'm not talking about cardio. I'm talking about lifting weights because it has a metabolic effect, okay? But taking these, it like I said, oxygenates the cell membrane, so I am fully oxygenated. So basically what I have is I have a small pump, meaning my heart, but I have clean blood vessels. Let's look at it as a PVC pipe, okay? And I've got a water pump over here, okay? So I'm pumping water through a 3-inch PVC pipe that has pure 3 inches round. Okay, so that pump is kind of small, but it's pumping really good because there's nothing to slow it down. There's no drag or any clots or inflammation or buildup on the side of the PVC pipe, meaning my blood vessels. So that flows really good. That's why I believe that I can actually get away with an ejection fraction of 20%. Okay, there's nothing slowing me down. Now, this other guy could have a bigger pump and a 3-inch PVC pipe, but have clots or something dragging and resisting that flow of liquid, meaning blood, or in this case, I'm talking about water. So at the end of the pipe, the smaller pump with clean blood vessels or PVC pipe is pumping out the same amount of the other one that has a bigger pump with nothing wrong with it, meaning your heart, and it's going through that pipe, but that pipe is narrowing because of the clots. So the same output, cardio output in this case, the water coming out on the other end of the PVC pipe is the same. And that's what I believe is what my condition is doing. Now, if I had a very bad diet, I didn't exercise, laid on the couch, I probably wouldn't be doing this video right now. Okay, so that's how important this is. Also, it's great for hair, skin, and nails. The hair part hasn't really kicked in yet, but of course I'm just kidding. This right here, I'm gonna put a link online, okay, and Brian Peskin link, who talks about the essential fatty acids, and he calls them parent omega oils, which is the real name for the EFAs. And I'll put a link down below for some of his videos, and they're great. They will just turn your mind. It'll actually get you mad at anybody who takes fish oil or the fish oil companies. Okay, fish oil is not good for you. It's good for fish, but fish oil is not good for you. Okay, it's also the #1 supplement in the world. So I wonder if that has anything to do with why they manufacture it. Anyway, so the Extend Life, the essential fatty acids, unadulterated plant-based, omega-6 and omega-3. Okay, also, in my arsenal of vitamins, and I put them in these little cups right here with a seal on it. I take curcumin, okay, for inflammation. This helps clean up inflammation in your body. And also, this is an anti-inflammatory also, the Extend Life, big time. Okay, CoQ10 is a mitochondria energizer. Okay, so what is mitochondria? It's in every muscle in our bodies. Okay, so if you're taking a statin drug to control your cholesterol, you're going to have a deficiency in CoQ10. So you might get prescribed a statin to control your cholesterol, which really, if your cholesterol doesn't really have a number, it changes all the time. And if it's not inflamed, then cholesterol carries oxygen in the cell membrane. Cholesterol is in every part of our body. As a matter of fact, 70% of people who have heart attacks have normal or below normal cholesterol levels. So I just don't understand that part. But anyway, so if you're on a statin drug, this stuff right here, this CoQ10 is vital. You'll see commercials on it now. Now they're admitting that they're slowing. Put it this way. In our bodies, what is the most concentrated muscle that we have that would have the mitochondria? It would be your heart. So basically what they're doing is they're giving you a statin drug to knock the CoQ10, which is an energizer, away from your heart, to slow down your heart, to correct, or what they call correct, your cholesterol. Okay, so to me, you know, if you're on a statin drug, you pretty much need this stuff. Let me rephrase. If I was taking a statin, which I wouldn't, I would be taking CoQ10 to energize my mitochondria. Okay, having slow muscles or mitochondria in the body is not a good thing. Okay, vitamin D is another. another supplement that supports your immune system. This is one of the number one supplements that you can get. No, the sun's not going to do it. Not here in Houston. It's rain for a week, number one. Number two, to have enough vitamin D come from the sun, you almost have to lay spread eagle naked in the sun for an hour. Okay, it's a lot easier to take. I take anywhere from 500 international units to 10,000, and that's every other day. Every other day. Okay, Berberine is another one of my all-star supplements here. It helps control, it's good for your cardiovascular system. It also controls your sugar. It also helps you burn fat for energy, okay? My other plan of attack is zinc. Now, zinc works a lot with vitamin C, vitamin D, and vitamin B, C, and this is all a part of your immune system also. Now, when we had that virus there, the pandemic, you know, I suggested, or I should say, I took quite a bit of zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D. Those were my powerhouse to support my immune system. I never got COVID, never, okay? Thank God, because I have congestive heart failure. I have asthma. It wouldn't have looked good, you would think, right? But in my case, I was wanting to immune to it. And I have a strong feeling. I have a lot of clients coming in and out the door. Some are school teachers. And I hate to say it, but school teachers are in a breeding ground of viruses and germs from the kids. Kids always get sick. So those are my main ones. Milk Fisco for your liver. And by the way, folks, most of these supplements that I recommend, and I don't really recommend them, I say this is what I would take if you had this condition. I suggest that they take this, and I do it through a blood test. So I know what your vitamin D levels are, and you should know this anyway. I know what your A1C levels are. This Berberine mimics metformin. Okay, so metformin is a prescription that a physician would prescribe to somebody with a 5.7 or above score on their A1C. So 5.7 to 6.3 is borderline diabetic or pre-diabetic. 6.4 and up is full-blown diabetes. Okay, so with the weight training and Berberine, I can get rid of your, for lack of better words, your diabetes issue and knock the sugar right in its right in the mouth. Okay, and also by changing your diet up a little bit, you know, something that's sustainable. That's the key. It's sustainable. What I do is sustainable. I'm not dreading my lifestyle, not at all. And what I do for people that are looking to change their lifestyle or have a heart condition or any other condition, diabetic. I mean, diabetes is something that I can cure. And I can say cure because when I watch these commercials on TV, they're just dropping your levels down to 7.9. That would be almost a world record in here, having somebody having that high of levels for diabetes or A1C. Okay, A1C is your measurement of sugar or glucose average for over 3 months, 2 to 3 months. Okay, so that's more of a good measurement of where your sugar is. Glucose levels will alternate or deviate up and down from day to day. Okay, so anyway, that's my video today. And, you know, I don't take congestive heart failure lightly at all. I don't drive around thinking that I could drop dead at any moment. And my cardiologist was nice enough to say, it's painful. It's a painful death. You just pass out. That's nice. So I don't know if he was making a pitch to get a heart transplant or get an external defibrillator, which I agree with. You know, that's fine if that's for you. Okay, but it's just not for me. I was born with this heart, and I plan on going with this heart. Okay, maybe after if I ever did have a heart attack, maybe my attitude would change or survived it. But for now, you know, a lot of people don't know this about me, and you say, well, he's in, you know, pretty decent shape, and he works out every day and he eats real well because he preaches that to us, you know. But you know, nobody's a Superman or bulletproof, and I don't claim to be either. I'm just opening up and telling you all my conditions and what I do for my medication. This is my medication, and with lifting weights is my medication. Okay, and so far, you know, most people that have congestive heart failure, half of them will survive the first 5 years, but 37% after 10 years don't. Okay, so, you know, I'm beating the odds, and I think of the way my lifestyle is. Now, if you don't have any conditions or anything like that, you might live to 100. You know, I might live to 100. I don't know. But living with congestive heart failure doesn't have to be a death sentence at all. And I'm proof of that. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Okay, and we'll see you next time. Ray Bassett, signing out.